welcome back to Room 237, and we finally come to what is, for now, the final video in my reviews for the Wrong Turn film series. Because I've already done the new reboot, I actually did that first. That's what made me want to do this series. And I haven't seen Wrong Turn 6 since it first came out. I don't own it, so I don't know when I'm going to see it. So for now, it's just going to be the first 5 wrong turns and the reboot. And from what I've gathered, next to part 6, I'm really seeing that this is the most hated, disliked, worst one. And that is 2012's Wrong Turn 5, Bloodlines. Which I know originally it was going to be called Wrong Turn 5, Bloodbath. Which the original poster was still going to have the party background, but have someone buried up to their neck with the mutants and the trees. Which that scene is still in here, just not the way the poster would have presented it. Now, I do remember when this came out because by this time, I had already seen all the other Wrong Turn films. This was the first one I actually anticipated to come out. I went out and bought this the day it came out. And go figure it was this one. Then the next one I anticipated was part 6, and I was even more disappointed. And again, this was written and directed by Declan O'Brien, who directed 3 and 4. This would be the last one that he directed. And, let's see, Jeffrey Beach, Philip Roth produced it. Did Declan O'Brien also write the 4 and 5? 3 and 4. I don't think he wrote 4. He did. Okay, so he has been writing these. The ones that he also directed. But anyway, yeah, this one has widely been considered, from what I've seen on the internet, people really hate this film. Like part 4, I don't consider this to be the worst one either. It's worse than 4, I will say that. But I still hate 3 more. This is still kind of a guilty pleasure for me. And this one, I don't know why. 4, I can give you examples, and I've already reviewed that, so go check that out if you haven't already. It does have, again, I've said this for each review, or during each review, there's an original idea for why these people are in the woods. In fact, this one isn't even in the woods. It is another prequel, so it will go 4, 5, then 6, and then 1 through 3. But I have problems with how this is supposedly a prequel. So we do get the original 3 brothers again, which I do like. I do like that it's 3-figure, Sawtooth, and One Eye. We have, what's his name? Borislav Ilyev playing 3-figure, who also played him in part 3. So, and yeah, this one does not take place in the woods. This one is more in a small town, because even though the cover makes it look like there's a party out in the woods, which I think could have been also interesting. Not to say this is interesting, but it's different. There's this Mountain Man festival, which is kind of like Burning Man, like this big music festival that's up in the mountains of the, I always forget the name of the area. Glenview, Fair Lake, Greenbrier County. Okay. Excuse me. So, the hillbilly cannibals come down to the town while it's completely empty to stalk their group of victims. Which, the characters in this are as one-dimensional as the characters in part 4 and part 3. The acting is just as bad or worse. I will say the acting is better than in part 3, maybe worse than in part 4. But in this, we do have a special surprise. Well, not really surprise because it was part of the marketing. It appears by Doug Bradley, Pinhead himself. And the thing about Pinhead's character is... Well, actually, I'll get into that. Well, no, whatever. He is supposedly, I believe, the old man gas station attendant from the original film, who was also in the second film, played by Wayne Robson. I'm pretty sure that's who Doug Bradley's supposed to be, in which case I do not buy. Just like in part 4, it does do a very poor job at making itself a prequel, say eventually this will lead up to part 1. Because if you remember in part 1, at the very end, when Desmond Harrington and Eliza Dushku pull up in the tow truck at the gas station, he goes inside the gas station and hides as if he's afraid of the mutants. But then when he sees it's them driving, he's kind of like, what the hell? And then in part 2, he says how he kind of keeps his distance. In this, he is like the mean, abusive dad to the 3 brothers. So there would have to be a movie, which I thought part 6 might have done. I know some people say, well, maybe someday we'll still get that movie. I don't think so. If we have a reboot, they're pretty much done with this. Like, you don't know that? Yeah, I do. Where there's going to be some serious character development for how these mutants stop taking shit from him being abusive, because they really are. They're all these past movies, they haven't taken shit from anybody, and he beats on them. He talks down to them, and the 3 brothers are really dumb in this. I mean, they still set traps and everything, but they kind of, they're almost cartoony, especially 3-Finger. Like, he's way more cartoony. But yeah, they act more like dumb and sort of caveman-y. Their makeup is horrendous. I will say this is some of the worst of the hillbilly makeup of the whole series. I looked up pictures of part 6 just to kind of refresh myself, and that's pretty bad as well. But I will say 6 is closer to the original than this. This looks really goofy, like Geico Caveman, especially Sawtooth. And like the very bulbousy brow, and they're always just making really goofy faces. But the story is, okay, we have this kid named Billy, who is kind of like a young store brand Ben McKenzie. Him and his friends are, they're out in the woods. They're all planning to go to this Mountain Man festival. He's got a backpack full of drugs that they can take. But also, at the same time, we see that in the small town, everyone's getting ready for this festival. They're all dressed up like mountain men. We see this one news reporter who's kind of a bitch. She goes for her jogging through the woods, runs into 3-Finger. First thing we see from him is he walks in front of her, like the most cartoony, over-the-top 3-Finger you've ever seen. She flips him off. He cuts her finger off, CGI blood. She goes to run away, runs into Doug Bradley, who acts like a hunter that's going to protect her. Brothers walk off. That's when we see he's actually with them, because he takes an axe, hits her in the stomach, cuts her hand off. And I will say, when we see her severed hand on the ground, and it's like, that looks pretty cool. Then it says wrong turn, then 5. It's cheesy, but I think it's kind of neat. So that sets up those characters. And then our main characters, they pack up their camping stuff, driving down the road. Doug Bradley, like, I guess he's gonna trap him by, like, walking across the street and, like, pretending to get hit so that they'll check on him, which is ill-advised because they could just hit you. So they go to check on him. He takes out a knife, cuts the Ben McKenzie-looking kid, Billy. And he's with his friend Julian, his other friend Gus, and then Gus and Billy's girlfriend. The three guys are kicking the shit out of him. Then the sheriff and her deputy pull up, arrest all of them. And the brothers watch the arrest. So that's the setup for the movie, is Doug Bradley is in a cell in the sheriff's office. The whole town is empty. Everyone's at this Mountain Man festival. And the brothers are creating all this chaos, killing everyone one by one to free Doug Bradley. So it's kind of funny how they show like there's this festival or party out in the woods, but we don't see any of it. In fact, the most of it we see is this very long and gratuitous nothing scene of this girl who wants to get backstage but doesn't have a pass. So she fucks one of the deputies that are guarding the area. Because we have to show that the sheriff is alone, because he sets his walkie down, has sex with the girl in his car. That's all we needed to know. But the camera hangs on the sex scene for so long. Very gratuitous. I know sex and nudity is always very gratuitous in slasher films, but it gets to a point where it's like, okay. And what I was going to say about Doug Bradley is it's always cool to see him. It is. He's a horror icon. He's Pinhead. He's always welcome to see. Apart from not buying that he will eventually be this old, the old man for the first two, is his performance just doesn't fit this movie. I mean, he has a very strong presence to him. His performance, the script kind of fails him. His lines are cheesy, but the way he delivers them is, scary and intimidating. He has a presence. He deserves to be in a much better movie, which they finally give the old man a name, which is Maynard Odets, which earlier we see them in their cabin in the woods, and he hits and berates them for leaving the news reporter lady's purse and pocketbook around the woods, saying you can't leave anything or people will find it. So he kind of hits and berates them. And he does mention, he's like, you're not in this old hospital anymore. You're close to civilization. And it's like, so then the opening of part 4, the doctor was wrong, where he said, we think we ate their parents. And it's like he knew his sons were in this hospital for 30 years. And then eventually was like, I guess I'll go pick them up. Like, there's really not much it's where I'm looking for. There's not a whole lot of like attention to continuity between all these. It's like they're just kind of writing these as they go with no. It's kind of like the I was gonna say the Leprechaun films, but not that bad. With as far as we're kind of forgetting what we did in the last one. So yeah, Doug Bradley, he totally deserved, like, his performance in this deserves to be in a different movie. Because then he's kind of doing Hannibal Lecter for the rest of the film. Sitting in his cell, saying all these cheesy lines. Like when the sheriff's husband says he'll bring her dinner, he's just like, Last Supper. And just telling her, like, you won't live that long. And he keeps telling her that, my boys are going to come to set me free. And she doesn't believe him. which she's played by, she looks familiar, but I know I haven't seen her in anything. Sheriff, Camilla Arfwedson. She kind of reminds me of like a Carla Gugino character, like store brand Carla Gugino. She's just one note the entire film, which is just like you were gonna go away for a very long time, just, like trying to sound authoritative. And so Billy tells the sheriff that the drugs are all his. Let his friends go. She does because she needs the space, also because of the festival. They go to a hotel. Doug Bradley tells her, which she finds out on the computer, that apparently he's been a serial killer for like 30 years. Even though he was just telling the brothers, I've been in these woods for 30 years, never had to move because I never left evidence. But I guess he's linked to all these murders. And he keeps saying, like, those are my boys. Because first they knock out the power. Or first they knock out the telephone lines. They pull down a tower with the truck. Then they go to the power plant or place. And they hoist one of the workers up to the cables, which electrocutes him, kills the power. And then they just start wreaking havoc around this small town. Which, I've been in some small towns. Born and raised in Maine, but this town looks like a movie set town. Like, this movie is as cheap as it gets. This town looks like the kind of small town that would be that you would find in like a studio's backlot, or almost I think Cody Leach called it like a Wild West town because it's just a couple blocks, like just a couple streets. Like, think about the map in the first Silent Hill movie, how it's just like one road and like building. It just looks cheap. It looks like a movie set town. So there's no one else in this town, so the three brothers are just terrorizing it. First one to go is Billy's girlfriend. She leaves the hotel to go bring him some food. And the kills in this movie, this is the most mean-spirited one out of all of them. Probably the goriest one since part 2. But at least in all of them, you get the sense that all these victims are being killed for food. Even ones that have like really crazy traps to them, you get the idea they're being used for food. They are just torturing people. Other than the news reporter in the beginning, like, they are just flat out torturing people, using them for bait. It is like the most drawn out, mean-spirited kills out of the whole series. And I only say that because I don't remember part 6. But so Billy's girlfriend leaves. She has a flashlight. She's being chased by Three Finger. He gets ahead of her, stabs her in the stomach. She falls to her knees, and then he like starts taking her intestines out and like feeding them to her. Which, practical, but you can kind of see the mechanism under her sweatshirt because she's, built small. So you see like all these like obstructions in her shirt that just makes her look awkward. And Declan O'Brien said he wanted to kill with salvation just right there. So while Three Fingers putting her very fake looking intestines in her own mouth, the friend Julian like walks by because he's gonna go visit Billy. So it's like help is right there, but can't quite get it. And then like who else dies? I don't even remember the order, but so eventually the other couple, Gus and Lana, is that what her name was? One Eye shows up at the hotel room, and Gus thinks it's just like a drunk mountain person with a costume. And again, these brothers are so, they're just acting so caveman-y, and they look like Geico cavemen. I can't, and just the makeup does not help them at all. But they get attacked in the hotel room. Oh, there's also a couple nods in this film that are very cheesy. Like Doug Bradley calls the three brothers pinheads. When that one random groupie girl is gonna have sex with the cop to get a backstage pass, she says, "I think I made a wrong turn." Okay. But so they take Gus, okay, I guess her name is Lita. I kept thinking you were saying Lana. Lita, I think, makes it down to the, because she escapes from One Eye and makes it down to the sheriff's station. Gus, they tie his ankles to, like, a tree, tie his arms to, like, the towing apparatus of the truck, and then they take hammers and they just beat the fuck out of his shins until you see the bones, like, almost protruding through his skin. They do that so they can use him to crawl. They dump him out of the truck in front of the sheriff's station, trying to draw people out to help him. But then they just run over him. They also have the town drunk in the sheriff's station. Eventually, she has him get in her Jeep, drive off to get help. But he hits a barbed wire trap in the road. And then when he wakes up, he's in the hardware store across the street. And they use what's called the Bronze Bull. Or, I think in other times it was called the Iron Pig. But the ancient Greek, anyway, had this bronze bull, big bronze bull, with holes in it. And they put someone in it, they put a criminal or whoever in it, light the fire under it, so that the person screaming inside would come out of the nostrils, and it would sound like a bull. I do know that other places called it the Iron Pig, but so they do that to him to draw out the sheriff because she can hear him screaming. And it goes on for a while, and then they put propane tanks around him so it blows up. Again, just very mean-spirited, long, drawn-out kills. Eventually, she does let Billy out of his cell and deputizes him and his friend Julian. But they decide to go out to look for Billy's girlfriend. Of course, they get jumped by One Eye and Three Finger. They wake up. Billy's buried up to his neck, which, similar to what the original poster was going to be like. Julian is chained by the ankle to a goal post or a goal net out of this soccer field, some other part of town. And Three Fingers in this, like, sort of like a husk or a harvester machine, like with the big roto-tills in it. Just drives right over Billy's head. Julian's death is probably the goriest because runs over him feet first, and all practical just have chunks of meat flying over him. Which there is one shot when they run over, I think it's Billy's head, and we see some of the parts of his head go out to shoot because it sucks it up and shoots it out. It goes into like this gritty, grainy, like 70s grindhouse kind of filter for like a few seconds. But yeah, so Julian's death, definitely the bloodiest, goriest, just had chunks flying everywhere. And then we see the dummy get turned over and the blades. Eventually all that's left is Lita. Doug Bradley convinces her to let her go. He'll leave, he'll tell his boys to leave. He makes some cryptic, poetic thing about, have a vision. She lets him out. She has a gun but doesn't shoot him because we need him for the first film. he says something, oh, what I said about vision. He has like a knife. She wanders out in the street with no eyes. The sheriff gets her back inside, shoots Doug Bradley with the shotgun. And her eyes are like plucked out. And then we just get Doug Bradley taunting her more. Like, I'll probably keep you alive a little bit longer because I'm going to fuck you. And then my boys are going to fuck you. Then he's laughing at her while she's crying. Oh, because she notices, I think the sheriff notices her husband's car. So she goes out and he's in there. Duct tape, strings everywhere. And she just rips the door open because he's got a blade in his stomach. So when she pulls the door, it, opens him up and guts him. And eventually, the three brothers are done screwing around. They get the upper hand on the sheriff in the street, bring her inside. They let Doug Bradley out, and then he gives her death, but there's a choice. He has her chained up in his cell on her toes, has a wire to the heel of her shoes, to the trigger of a shotgun, and they set the department on fire. So she could either burn to death or she could just step down on her heels, blow her face off. Which, when she does, I do like this effect. I will say this is probably my favorite kill of the film just because of the style and how it's done. We don't see it, but we see the blood spatter on the back wall, and there's just traces of hair along the blood spatter. So I thought that was a nice detail. I think that was well done. They get in the tow truck, they leave. Then they come across Lita. Of course, she's still blinded. No eyeballs. Three Finger gets out, leads her quietly by the hand into the truck. Doug Bradley says, I think he says, welcome back or welcome home, Lita. She recognizes his voice because earlier he says, you'll remember this voice. She screams as they drive off, end of the movie. I mean, it goes at a fast pace. It's only it's 91 minutes. But I will say, it's paced well. It does keep moving. Only scenes like when the groupie is having sex with the other officer to get the backstage pass, does that drag on. The makeup on the three brothers is really bad. I mean, it definitely looks like a direct-to-video sequel. Three Finger just... he looks as bad as he always does after at least the second film. One Eye looks really laughable, but Sawtooth was the most disappointing because he's just got this really thick protruding brow that's just pointed angry. He's always just making these and they're all making these caveman gestures, and Three Fingers just a cartoon with how much he's doing that cackle that he does. Doug Bradley's super serious character, but with very cheesy dialogue. He's doing what he can, but he doesn't save the movie at all. In fact, if his presence and his performance with the better script was in a better movie, it'd be very solid. And I also just don't buy... I do see how this film can lead into the first one more than the fourth one, but not Doug Bradley's character. I don't see how he's going to become the gas station guy. Being this intimidating, abusive father figure to just this timid, scared on his own gas station attendant. It still has some CGI moments. Oh, like when after everyone gets arrested, the sheriff's deputy stays behind the car, Billy's car, because they find the drugs. The brothers come out of the woods, running at him. Three Finger has a bow and arrow. He keeps his hand on his pistol, but just goes, stop, stop. and I think it's Sawtooth just like cuts his ears off, and that's all CGI. CGI when the news reporter gets her finger cut off. So it does have CGI, but it does have, very gory kills, very practical gory kills. But like this almost feels like it was a different movie that was turned into Wrong Turn. I know that's not the case. It's not like a Hellraiser sequel, because it was written by Declan O'Brien. This was always a Wrong Turn film. But it almost feels like it has that feel of being something else that was turned into Wrong Turn. Because none of the kills are for food, except for the news lady in the beginning. It's all incredibly mean-spirited torture kills. Bloodlines is kind of a stupid subtitle. I mean, yeah, we get to see their dad, but doesn't really add much to what we already knew from the first two, aside from might as well being a totally different character. I don't like it as much, or it's not as much a guilty pleasure as Part 4. Definitely not. I don't hate this film. It's definitely, a more poor film. I mean, at least 4 was filmed at a real, hospital, rundown hospital. This was filmed in somewhere in Bulgaria, but the town looks like, like a backlot set town. I mean, it was kind of cool to see the Wrong Turn brothers have a town as their killing field instead of the woods. That was kind of neat. And again, I gotta give it the same credit. They have a new original way to get the characters where they are so they can be killed off. A festival in the mountains where everyone is up, so the town is now empty and deserted. I did like that. I don't mind the pacing. There's nothing to the characters. I really don't like the makeup on the three brothers, and Doug Bradley really should have been in a different film. They either should have made Doug Bradley the sheriff. That would have been very interesting. Have the festival in the woods and just have, just a massive killing field. Kind of like the opening to The Collection. How it was in this rave club and everyone got killed. Or, not use Doug Bradley at all and get like a more Wayne Robson gas station guy type character. Because this really was Doug Bradley's movie, and the movie is not as good as his performance, even though the script sucked. But I can still watch it as a guilty pleasure, even though it still feels more like a Wrong Turn film than Part 6, from what I remember. But I guess that's all I got for the Wrong Turn series. I mean, if I ever get Part 6, I'll definitely review it. But for right now, I haven't found where I can watch it for free online. I'm not in a hurry to rush out and buy it. And I've done the first 5 in the reboot, so that's good enough for now. So I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat marathon of the Wrong Turn series, minus Part 6. I'm not sure what series or franchise I'll do next, if I do one anytime soon. But yeah, it has been kind of somewhat fun to go back and rewatch all of these. As bad as they are, as much of a guilty pleasure they are, but why not be cheesy? I definitely remember Part 6 being the wrong turn of the franchise and probably what killed it. But I do remember it having more elements that the reboot took than like the earlier films. But anyway, that's it for the Wrong Turn series. Thank you for watching.